Hey, you move over. We can share the seat together.
Share the seat.
Hey guys, here's Robert and me. We're at the library. And what are we talking about today, Robert? You said you had something to want to
Yeah.
dynamically here. Let's put your little guy over there and
Yeah.
put this over here.
Yeah. Notebook.
Okay, get your notebook. Remember, welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob and his guest, Robert, a great artist and visionary. And this is just for entertainment's sake and for fun. And chat away. Now there's two of you. Say hi. Say hi, Robert.
Hello.
So what are you talking about today? What are we talking about?
Today,
Yep.
the last time I was on this channel, I was talking about
Images like this will show up, right? With a good contrast, but things that are like this, not so much. So whatever picture you want to show, make sure it's got at least a somewhat of a contrast.
Got it.
So what I was telling Robert, there's a channel called Truth. What is it called? Truth Stream Media. And those kids, they're on my playlist. Gang, if you go, hey Bob and Rob. Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Bob
precisely.
and Bob. Yes. Anyway, that has gone to my playlist on my channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, and go to the playlist. And there's that Truth Stream Media. Those guys are straight up. And I'm telling Bob here, Robert, that he's got great stories. See, like this one here, right? He's got great, interesting, and he knocks them out. But show him a couple of your pictures.
All right.
Remember, contrast.
Right.
So he knocks his stuff out, but that's like contrast. They can't see, it's,
I don't know if I can see it with this one.
No, it's got to have contrast. You got one in there.
Where?
You have a bunch. That has contrast. You can show him that one. So he draws his stuff. He creates storylines, right? But they are very character driven, and those characters are driven by what you're seeing there, not by I can attest the stuff. If you go to xratted.blogspot.com, you read my stuff, it's coming out of my cerebral cortex stream of consciousness, and that's kind of, I was doing the same thing, different motif, but same kind of thing. Give him a read of a page or two of your new story there, and they'll get the trip. So I wanted him to go to this Truth Stream Media and take the information they got and weave it into his storylines. Give him a read.
One of the main points of this Infinite Gamer storyline, this hero team of mine is based in mostly these two boarding houses, one in Kansas, one in New Jersey, just living under a rock mostly on the place, but this team was forged as outsiders and orphans of circumstance from everywhere and everyone you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Defenders of the such, but as part of this, as part of this world, you've got all types that come in. For example, a tranquil orchestral theme falls upon the forest outside Zion boarding house. The scene is serene and quiet as the birds fly gently through the trees in the early morning light. When quite suddenly the piece is wrecked by the voice of a woman screaming at the top of her voice, "My nuts! You evil little budgies! You're gonna pay for that!" Camera zooms down to show it. A young teenage black girl chasing and running at a bunch of blue jay birds, which are feasting on a bunch of nuts simply sitting by them, and which they think are for them. Like say, this little girl here, Grace, what we call Squirrel Girl, she is a mutant, has a very unusual connection with the little furry rodents. She can communicate with them, she can do anything with them, and she has a certain prehensile furry tail that comes out. In the world of Infinite Gamer, the mutants and the metahumans are an unwanted cast. They had this big war between humans and metahumans several years ago, and then they all mysteriously disappeared when they brought it down.
Does that sucker have a microphone on it? No.
Beg your pardon? No, that's
So keep talking, but a little slower and a little louder.
okay.
So
Yeah, let me see if I can get through this. I think. Where did I put the? Are you sitting on my Kindle?
No.
What did I do with it?
There it is.
Oh. Yes, I remember you, Jamie.
Yeah, there he is. Yep.
So you recall the let me see, where was it? I put it in here. This might be a little bit more advantageous. That thing is a little bit less effective.
Let me rewise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, it's got to have a bit of a contrast.
Unfortunately, I just creamed the thing's screen.
Ay.
What you doing?
I'm going to plug in my microphone.
Microphone?
Yeah, which is louder than the microphone in that thing.
I see.
So it'll get you better.
Okay.
No, I can hold it.
Okay.
Just talk. So what are you kids up to? Let's see. Looking well. Yeah, I'm still there. Plan trip to see Al. Good, Jamie. I'm just give me the 4-1 at Dreamy, at the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, and we can, like I said, when I'm in the Deep Green or in Roanoke, they're both places you can get to that I can get you. So okay.
Yep.
Take it away, kids.
Yep. Last time I was on here, I only managed to show a few of these. I did have a couple more that I had in mind.
Show it to them. Yeah, flip through them.
That's one of my basic Wonder Woman sketches. Special thing for the fans that like that, pairing her and the Bat are one big item in my story. And here is her boyfriend and the main leader of this little team of theirs. The idea with Infinite Gamers, everything and anything can happen. Anything can pop into this place. In the world you can imagine. In the video game, fantasy, fiction, etc. Anywhere, when you can be.
What is an Ultimate Gamer?
Infinite Gamer, basically, it's take the rules of what you've seen with the Justice League and the Avengers, combine it with the rules of things akin to Tron and the Matrix, make it a celebration to all the things video gaming and the fact of how the world really works compared to the virtual world, and you might get it just the preparatory for getting into the story.
Kind of hold this towards you.
This
See this little bit, that's the mic right there.
Yeah.
This.
Okay. The special thing about it, for anyone who's seen any of those particular films, you're not going to see many of the A-listers that everyone is familiar with in the film. These characters are some of the forgotten gems, the ones that don't get any limelight or have been lost to time. For example, something which a lot of people don't know about is the original version of the Ghost Rider.
Ooh, tell us.
The new Ghost Rider, the one that everyone's familiar with, the man who made the deal with the devil,
Mike?
that became the demonic entity with the flaming skull. That is actually the 1980s alteration of the Ghost Rider. The original Ghost Rider was actually a cowboy styled as a literal ghost cowboy that was rechristened the Phantom Rider a long time ago.
Is that the guy who is? Who's the guy in the movies who plays the Ghost Rider? What's his name?
The
Motorcycle Boy.
Yeah, the motorcycle boy is the second one. It's funny, when they did the movie, they actually showed the original one. They just messed with him so he was actually a demon. No, the original 1967 Ghost Rider looked completely
Yeah, but
different.
there was a guy who was like the old guy who is a cowboy who talks to Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, that's who that's supposed to be.
Right.
That's who that's supposed to be. They just didn't use him right. They just did whatever the heck they wanted with the film. But as I say, but we're gonna be bringing that one into the team, the one which was called the Phantom Rider. But there's a big twist and difference which goes with him. Last time I was on this channel, as I told you, something important about Captain America on this team is he's an Apache Native American instead of
Brooklyn boy.
Yes, instead of a Brooklyn All-American boy. As I said before, I'm not very big of that particular look for superheroes. I've never been big on it. So I wanted to do something just a little bit more fun. But the amazing thing with him being the Native American is our version of the Phantom Rider is also an interesting twist because of what he is a tributary to.
And what is that?
Though dressed like a ghost cowboy, what is beneath the costume is something for a film which Al himself has stated may have been one of the best attempts for equality in comedy films of all time.
Blazing Saddles?
Blazing Saddles. Our Phantom Rider is deliberately sampled off Sheriff Bart from Blazing Saddles. We already got him cast. We're trying to get him to the thing. He's going to help us figure out how to make the props and the costume for the gun for all that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, before anyone asks, that is, of course, he agreed to do it, and we will be doing it on the condition that we pull the best things out of the films for the humorous purposes. For example, when him and the captain first team up on the team, of course, we have a version of that iconic exchange.
Have you ever talked to Mel Brooks or emailed him?
I'm planning to. I'm planning to discuss this with him just to see what he says.
Right, you need to get a hold of Mel Brooks.
I'm planning to. He seems like such a really nice person.
But open-minded like you can't believe.
I know. Well, that's the best thing. He made that particular film, but he understands this. Everybody. I mean, he's a Jewish man. He understands. He's not afraid to push the envelope with everything. I know.
You know?
I absolutely adored that film for the longest time. I like all of them.
So mess with the canon and all those dweebs who you can't do that with Star
Yes, I'm still laughing at myself. So just going to the opening of the movie and him making the ship so long by just putting the model kits together again and again and again and again until it takes a full 5.5 minutes to pass the camera.
Right.
We break for nobody on the back, something like that. But as I say. Hey, I'm Robert, one of Al's pals from all the things we do.
Hello, library.
Hello, Lana.
Oh, hey, Lana. Good to see you, girl. This is Robert. He's quite an extraordinary creative person, an artist. Show him a few more of your pieces there. Here, hold the microphone.
Okay, let me see if I can get some of this up here.
Lana.
Something important while I'm on here, something I was vaguely bringing up last time. There are two rock groups.
I got it.
Okay, there are two rock groups we work with that you can look up their work and their music, but there's at least 3 songs I can name in which I regularly have my signature on it, which is we work with the band known as the Aviators, and my main process for my thing is the Angel of the Dark song on the album Dark Souls. And then the other group we work in is a group called DA Games, which is also doing material for our Hero Fiction. One of them, the latest one which just came out, is Override and Conquer, which is a song from the Villains for a world called Earth -12, where everything is dying and everything is falling down in a planet which takes 10 years. We're about 6 years in when the show starts. And the other thing that we do with DA Games, the big break, is a song called I Am the Animal, which is for one of our original Heroes of the Infinite Gamer, which isn't designed yet.
Right.
But he's in the work. We got him cast.
Right.
We just need to get it. I was referring to him earlier. Tamer L, as we call him, empowered by the animal kingdom. He would be what you consider Cruella de Vil's worst nightmare. Ultimate animal rights activist, based on the genre this is of communicating with the beasts on their own level. And his costume is a rare red skin of a Nemean lion. He's also a Hispanic superhero at the end of the roster because there aren't a lot of those in fiction. It is actually a big rarity.
You mean a Hispanic cat?
Yeah, pretty much. Like he looks like a big, aggressive lion with that thing on.
But yeah, he likes tortillas.
Very much. Yes. He's the best of the best.
So I've known Robert a good 5 or 6 years, maybe longer, and he's always been passionate about his art. And he never gives up, never gives in. He's almost a dictionary, encyclopedic of this whole genre.
And what part of my frustration with the normal genre is I think, a lot of what these cinematic films of what they do. Oh, explain art.
Yeah.
Yes, you just joined just a moment ago.
Yeah, let him
didn't
see
you?
your art. Yeah, show him the art.
Okay, hang on. Let me get one of the good ones up here.
So he draws the stuff and he writes the stories.
Yes, I write the stories and I do all these concept character arts for my ideas.
You may see that.
Can you see this?
I'm telling him he needs to show
Yes,
something.
you can.
Oh, good, you can see it.
There you go.
Okay. So
That's one of mine.
how many of those characters do you think you have? 1,000, 5,000? How many?
There's tons which are not designed yet. I've had temporary financial issues with getting the rest of the art out the way I want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's more coming, but I have designed,
Thousands.
yeah, tons of them at least 20s or 30s or so. I've got a account on DeviantArt, Roberamus Millar. If you want to look up this up, you can also read. Yes.
What'd she say?
She went, "I'm Batman." Yes. Somebody saw the hoodie, of course.
Yep.
I'm Vincent Van Gogh.
You are. I mean, of all those characters, I would say Batman is your go-to
Yes.
guy.
That is my go-to guy. That is my basis. The second is always pretty much Captain America.
Right.
That's the second and stage for me. But that's basically everything I do with it. Speaking of which, like I said, I was just explaining that.
Show him that. That's a good one.
Here's one of my. I was just discussing this. Oh, you are a laugh riot, Jamie. That's one of my Captain America designs. That's the Apache Captain America I was just discussing.
Right.
And I put together. I do, however, but I do want to be fair. I do have a version of the original Steve Rogers in this as well. I've done many of these. So I have the two main teams. I have the Mighty Crusaders Online, which is from Infinite Gamer, and the other one. Actually, I have not been that lucky. I did not finally get to see the last one.
For the Avenger.
The last Avenger movie. It left the cinema down the street before I could go see it. Well, I get the impression that I may not completely like either, just because, straightforward honesty, I am not very big on the Avengers on the cinematic films for one particular problem. There's a reason why usually
Why
go.
don't you like it?
I have one huge problem with the Avengers, and it goes down to the name. The one thing I've never liked about the Avengers is, I mean, what does it stand for? It's a bunch of egotists after payback.
Right, and they're basically what do they call them? What is Batman? When they always call him, he's the it's his, what do the police call him? He's a there's a word.
A detective.
No, but he's not a detective. He's a vendetta guy. What do you?
Yeah, but
what do you
that's the
call
thing.
him? That's
But
what they constantly call him. The people in he doesn't go by the law. He just goes and gets people.
yeah,
What
but
do
the
you call
great
that?
thing about Batman that he understands, which is different, is he understands
Well, he
something.
never kills them.
Yeah, he never kills them, but he also understands the important thing is they can't be officially sanctioned, otherwise they can't actually catch
Those people.
those people that the law is protected from those things.
Right. But what is the term they use?
I think she just said it.
What did she say?
Jamie went the Dark Avenger.
No. That's his comic book thing.
Yeah.
They call him, it's a word, vigilante.
Vigilante, yes.
And that's what the Avengers are, vigilantes.
Yeah.
You know?
But as I said, the difference however, with his team that he's on the Avengers, basically the Avengers is basically just, it's a bunch of payback, and I've got news for you. What's the point of trying to save it when there's nobody left standing to save it?
Yeah,
Every
they
time,
destroy the city and everyone's dead and they vanquished the alien, right?
yeah. So that's the brilliant difference between with the four Avengers movies and with the Justice League film. There was a huge difference because of something in the Avengers movie. When they get together, the aliens are cutting down from the sky. Okay, until we can, and because of that portal, our priority is containment. Containment in the middle of New York, with that coming out of the sky. How many people are gonna die before they actually manage to
Well,
get
that's what I
this
liked
fixed?
about Doctor Strange,
Yeah,
because he went back in time, found the bad guy, and just kept him there,
the loop,
kept him there,
the
kept
constant
him there
loop.
because he had that stone, and he kept him there until the bad guy said, "Okay, I had enough of this.
What do you want?
Yeah, just
Make your
leave
turns,
me
and we'll
alone.
let it go."
We'll let
Yes.
it go, right? It
As
took
I
him
say.
forever, but he did it, right?
Yeah,
And then his buddy was such a purist. He said, "Well, I'm going to step away from all this because we broke the rules." And our teacher, she, I really loved her. I gave my whole life to her, but she was using the dark side to,
yeah. By the
make
way,
things right.
you want me to give you a fun little spoiler on that,
go for
Al?
it. Yeah.
Do you know that that's the guy is deliberately putting up a front because that guy Mordo is
Mordo.
one of Doctor Strange's biggest enemies
I
in
know
the
that.
comic continuity.
Right.
So yeah, that was actually just a show.
But it comes from psychology in that Mordo was his mentor.
Right.
It's the guy who got him in, who talked the ancient, we've seen a whole bunch of these guys. Do we want another one? And he goes, no, this guy's a little different, right?
Yeah.
So that's that whole thing of love lost. That's the real. These guys had a bromance, and it got lost.
Right. Anyway, as I was saying, the reason why I was big on the Justice League instead, which happens twice in the big motion picture they put together, is whenever they run into the alien menace, what do they do every single time?
They take it away.
The team divides its forces. One part engages, one evacuates.
Yeah, saves the innocents.
Exactly. That great moment with the rookie young Flash in that room. He's afraid because he's never done something like this before, and and Batman just save one. What? Right. Save one person. Which one? Don't talk. Don't fight. Get in. Get one out.
Yeah, right.
And then you'll know. And he gets the one out and went, oh, the rest of them can deal with this. I can get everybody out of there.
Yep.
And they do this twice in the film.
Well, that goes to my general rule of A, doctor do no harm. B, don't get involved unless you can have a positive outcome and you can save the innocents and get them out of the way. And don't get involved unless you can learn something from the event.
Exactly.
Otherwise, don't get involved. It's not your job.
Right.
Otherwise, it's your ego. And that's what you're talking about. These guys do this stuff for their ego.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about the end scene says the end of the film was we actually got the first unofficial of one of the most iconic competitions in DCU, which is the fastest man alive race, which is always Superman and the Flash having a road race. It's always kind of
my real interest is my favorite character in that group is Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah,
you know, because she is really, she's been her whole life stuck on the island with the girls, and she's naive to what's going on. And especially in that first movie where they take her to London and all the powerful guys are in the room, and they're looking at this thing and it's in Sumerian, and she just translates it like that, right?
Right.
And tells them exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And they keep going. So who's that woman? And instead of going, wow, this girl's right. We need her.
Right. Here's one of my Wonder Woman sketches. We can get a good shot of that.
And so she comes out into humanity to go against Ares, and she goes all in against Ares. And once she defeats him, it doesn't make a difference.
No.
And she loses her first boyfriend, and that's why she's kind of stepped out of the page for like 60 years, 70 years.
As I say, the irony, of course, technically in most situations, she couples with the man that was, the opposite of Steve Trevor. Steve Trevor was, optimistic, positive, everything, and Mr. Wayne is mostly negative.
Yeah,
but he's not into despair.
No.
That's the thing, and yet it's something that they...
Well, he does what I do. You don't give up. You just keep plugging around. And what is his dad always say? Bruce, why do we, what happens when we fall down? What's the good thing?
So we can learn to pick ourselves up.
And that's what he does every frigging time.
Yes, he does. It's like, there's a poster I think you should look for, which has got the list of the things they tried to break in Batman, and the thing was he just kept coming back.
Right.
He kept getting up. He kept coming back.
Yep.
That's how it is.
That's how it is.
Yep. I've got... And it's funny, for all of you that mentioned it earlier for the Marvel Comics X, I've got something a little bit fun for Rocket Socks off from JLA. Tony short for Antonia.
So that will keep the trademark people away from you?
Yes, we're using fair use policy. I'm not using anything they actually used. I'm doing my own thing with it in every sense of the word.
So are you trademarking in any way?
In a different manner.
I mean, kind of putting it on this is semi-trademarking. It's showing, because the digital stamp of when and what time you did it, what day, kind of gives a heads up. Yes.
Right.
Rob had it, so.
Yeah. The good news about the stuff on the website to getting their hands on it, you can't do it without jumping through every single hoops of the copyright.
You know what might be interesting? Back in the day, back in the 80s, early 80s, late 70s, I had a friend of mine who's Mr. Computer, right? And he was one of the first people. I mean, in New York City, you couldn't go online. He had his own, he worked for a company, and he had some servers that they threw away, and he put them in his apartment. And before AOL, before any of that, he had his own, in Brooklyn, he had his own dial-up servers where you get on the internet, right?
Right.
And so one time we were in his, and we were inventing addresses, And so we...
Thank you, Jamie.
We took down all of the, Coca-Cola.com, GeneralMotors.com, every corporation I could think of, we put on, and owned that real estate.
Yep.
15 years later, when those guys wanted to go online, they had to go to him to get those names.
Yeah, I've got a load of these, which I did gender swapping for part of my fair use policy, things that have not been really tried again.
Right.
or before. And let me see. Like, for example, as you saw, I took Iron Man, turned it into an Iron Lady, but that's not the only thing. Fastest woman alive, people. Our version of the Flash.
You should have, if you had the Iron Lady,
Mhm.
you should have made her Margaret Thatcher.
Well, I was kind of tempted, but I was kind of tempted with
It would
that.
be great
I
for the
named
old
the name
folk.
in retrospect and went, wait a second, that was actually the title of the Prime Minister, wasn't it?
Yes, and you should have done that. That would have been great. It would have
Well-
been almost Torchwood.
Right. Yeah, it's been a long time since that was up. I wish we do something further with it. I mean, that's the only thing they can do because all the people are still alive and they're the only ones. My favorite spin-off from that series, unfortunately, is no longer here.
Which one?
Sarah Jane
Oh
Adventures.
that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was very good, but it only stopped because
She died.
Elizabeth Sladen died.
How
The
many years did they do that?
They were on to 5 seasons of it.
Oh.
Mind you, it actually started a little bit early because there was a one-shot episode in the original Doctor Who episode series, which was originally the foreground for starting it up, and then they started it up in earnest.
Is that in our library?
Oh, that show? I don't know. I know that you can get it off Amazon.
Oh.
You can definitely get it off Amazon because I had access to it for a brief time. But yeah, Jamie, about that, with the Justice Legion and with the Justice Legion of Avengers, technically speaking, yes, you will get to see Quicksilver in this because I'm actually meshing the members of the 2 teams for this. You will see both of both. I don't have Quicksilver on the design yet, but I did get his sister up there. Got the Scarlet Witch design. Quicksilver is on the design board, but I just haven't got there yet. But it's in the works.
Quicksilver has nothing to do with Silver Surfer.
Negative. Silver Surfer is his own thing. Silver Surfer, of course, is going to be an Infinite Gamer as well. It's just not done yet. He's going to be a little bit redesigned because we're going to be reforging him as though he was part of something like a Green Lantern Corps. We call them the Silver Surfer Centurions with a silver ring, which actually the silver represents endurance compared to the other emotional spectrums that are there in the canon.
Right.
And here's one of my crowning achievements, which I've been wanting to put forever on this channel. Just be warned. Oh, if you're worried about them, then I got some bad news for you. Jamie, if you have access to my DeviantArt channel, there's a certain script you should take a look at. The Infinite Gamer Season 1 finale.
Give them the address.
Yes. My account on DeviantArt where I post this stuff, including the scripts, is roberamusmillar@deviantart.com.
You might spell it for them.
Capital ROBERIMUS, capital MILLAR @deviantart.com, which is where you can see almost all of this art. You mostly can't touch it without purchase, and it's got the DeviantArt copyright material on the front of it, but you can look at it and see a little bit more of the story. On the other hand, I'm taking the scripts I'm writing and posting them second and at a time on that same art page for people to look at. So, yes, as I say,
Have you thought of doing a podcast or a blog?
yeah, we're trying to set up a website. We're trying to set up a blog and a podcast right about now. We haven't got it all established yet.
That would be a great portal for this.
Yes, and yeah, but something else I've got on the art for, well, something about, just to warn you out there looking at this, brace yourself. Do not make him angry. You won't like him when he's angry. My biggest frustration with Stan's creation, The Incredible Hulk, was that he tried to say, "Oh, it's the military go. Oh, it's a great big monster." I've got news for you. It doesn't look like a monster. It just looks like a very large green man to
Yeah,
me.
right.
So
A
my
big guy.
fix for that
A big guy.
was to make it something demonic, as it's supposed to be the personalities in his head.
Well, he's supposed to be like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Exactly. That was what the original design. That was what the original design of what it was supposed to be, but it didn't really look enough, and it fell off somewhere. I was trying to restore that fact that it's like the darker side that is within. That is supposed to be shared.
Did you
with
read
them.
Shelley's books, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
I read all of Stevenson stuff. You
Right.
know, I did.
Yeah.
I liked him because he was always.
Well, he's so
Very-
ahead of his time.
I know, and he was
It's so
so
human
unique
and
with
human.
every different title he
Yep,
made.
yep,
It was never really the same thing every single time.
Did you? He once wrote a story about where he gets his ideas, where he goes into dream time,
Mhm.
and the little people come to him and perform the
Mhm.
stories in front of him.
Let me see, where else I gotten here? Yeah, another point here. You've seen what I can do with mostly wing things.
Right.
Here's what I can do with self-proclaimed spiders. One of my Spider-Man scenarios.
Right.
The other one, which will be for Infinite Game, will be completely different because he's based in Tokyo. I'm actually talking to people in Japan to try to set that one up. But yes, the Spider-Man Cybernatural is going to have a little tash of
So do
mythology.
you do that on Skype or do you do that on my what's that? When you talk to people in other countries.
I don't have the thing set up, but usually they are members of my forum
Right.
that we just discuss through text and so forth on the thing.
And
I
that
don't have
forum,
something.
what's that address of your forum?
Yeah, as I say, deviantart.com. It's a virtual online art forum where everyone can go in there, produce their stuff, comment, discuss with each other.
So that's your means of communication around the world.
Did I like that particular one? Well, you saw what I did with mine. I deliberately did let him keep the extra arms, as you noticed. From the old days when he was trying to fix a mutation, he ended up doing the exact opposite and became that thing. The cool thing about my Spider-Man is he can actually control it where it appears and disappears out of him at will, except for the first morning after the accident, which went something like this. If we all know basically the same sort of thing in the as you know, sickly little kid went to bed sick, woke up, and then he just realized everything was right and wrong at the same time. Okay, on the plus side, let me see. On the one hand, I don't need my glasses. On yet the other hand, I'm this bulked up. On yet the other hand,
Right.
sex. That's when he realized. That's what he realized. And yes, this Spider-Man is definitely more powerful than the old one because of where his power is actually stemming from. It's actually coming from something that is living inside his body with him, which, if anyone knows African mythology, he's sharing his body with the Anansi,
Yeah, right.
the spider trickster of tales. That's where his powers going. What the accent did was it didn't give him powers, it just turned on what was already there.
Genetic.
It was already hiding inside. It was locked inside him when he was a little child.
Which is what the mutants are. I mean,
Yes.
everyone is a mutant. We just not everyone represents.
Exactly.
Right.
For all the differences and uniques of what we are.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. And this, of course, this is going to look completely different from the DC film, which was such a big hit. Just be warned about that. But, of course, doing the membership of the whole team just had to have the King of Atlantis join the party, you lot.
I liked him. I liked him in the movies.
I love Jason Momoa as
Yeah,
Aquaman.
yeah.
They nailed it. You know, it's like the biggest, brilliant upgrade of where. So the reason why that story was originally universal, I mean, it's the story of King Arthur in an undersea
And
environment.
not only that, it's the story of the guy who loses his family, his mom, and everything, and divorce, and racial prejudice, and
Mhm.
you name it, it's in there. And the environmental thing, and that he can't get a break either way. Above the water, below the water, he's always the odd man out. And that's a great story.
Oh, well, there is some actual truth to it, Lorna. There was a warlord in Wales that was Arthur Pendragon,
Oh, yeah.
but what the truth might have been, based on everything that everyone's done with the
Yeah,
tale,
well, yeah, come on.
is of course completely hard
Right,
to
right,
determine
right.
because of my favorite rule from one of my favorite series of all time, which is all things are true, few things are accurate.
Right. And it's based on people's opinion.
Yes, all those different cultures told that story and it got mixed together.
Yep,
And
yep.
of course, the real BS, as you put it, with that story, of course, is the fact that it was mostly rewritten by a convict trying to make an easy buck in a prison cell.
Right.
That's something that everyone has to consider, because when that Frenchman was writing Lemor's Tales d'Arthur, he was sitting in a cell just trying to make an extra buck.
And get crust of
That
bread.
was all it was. It was all
And that's pretty good
profit.
motivation.
Yeah. But like I say, what I'm doing, however, is not completely for the... What I'm doing is not specifically for the profit. It might be something that happens, but I have...
This is your art, Robert.
This is my art. I'm going...
And if you are true to your art, the money always comes.
Exactly.
At some point in time, but
yeah.
And if you're whining about it's not coming right now, well, you've lost the whole sense of what art is.
Mm-hmm.
Art's for art's sake, money's for God's sake.
Yes, that's the thing. But yes, that is what I'm trying to do, because I'm trying to follow the artistic integrity before the marketability, which is something of my three favorite directors used to do before me.
And they are?
Charlie Chaplin,
right?
Jim Henson,
yeah.
Stanley Kubrick.
Yep.
Those are the ones.
Yep.
Those are the mentors for what I'm doing with all of this work for all the projects.
And they're all
as
really
I say,
true to themselves. That's the beauty of those guys.
Yes, that was what I'm trying to do.
And they
with
succeeded.
This
and you know what? Really, they are very similar to Mark Twain.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Twain, poor guy, grew up on the river, becomes, works on it, gets the whole culture of the river in New Orleans and everything, and then starts writing stories about what he's experiencing. So he's a poor guy who wants to be rich. He's a rich guy who wants to be famous. He's a happy guy who has everything. His house, his family, his everything. People, he loses it all. His, with the flu pandemic comes through, wipes his family out.
Right.
And he is left, he's like Andy Warhol.
Right.
He's left famous, but without anything to give any meaning. He succeeded in everything he wanted to do, but at the end, the last 20 or 30 years of his life, he had no real meaning.
Yeah.
And he writes about that. His writings about that are
that's
his
something.
travel
I know
stories.
you haven't been into it. That's something you need to rewatch. Speaking of Mark Twain, still one of my favorite season finales of Star Trek: The Next Generation, because there's an episode where they go back to the 1800s and they meet Mark Twain.
Yeah.
And
is that the one where they meet Lincoln? And
it's still one of my favorite episodes of all time. Like I said, the most notated lyric, and I love it because he's scared of them because of the story he just wrote. Because guess what the year is?
Oh, it's
he's written the Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court at this point.
Right.
So he's afraid that's why it's a mess up, but that's not what's going on.
No. But he wrote. You know how he wrote that?
Yes.
He was a buddy of Nikola Tesla's. Right. And he saw that things were way more out there than what Mr. Morgan and Rockefeller and Edison wanted us to believe.
Right. Yeah, and speaking of which, I've got something here for the JLA for out there, but as a not mythologically accurate Thor.
You heard about Thor being a drunk and having a pot with fat.
Yes.
That was pretty fun.
Something I have to say about it, of course, something important that's different of my version, but compared to how Morphle tries to sketch him, something you have to realize about him is in actual mythology, he is the most conceited
Right.
blowhard you have ever
Well,
encountered.
you get that in the first one. He's
I
like
know,
so full of
but
himself.
even that film scaled it down compared to how I'm going to portray it.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell it exactly the way it really was and the true humility lesson. Something that the movie didn't do. It did not use, many times I've said, I'm not a big Stan Lee fan, but I have to agree with what he did with his version in the original comic of Thor for his humility lesson. Guess what his father does to him in the original comic? He takes away all of his memories and makes him live his life on Earth as a handicapped human.
Right.
He's got a limp. He can't walk properly. And that is the version I'm going with those extra twists that when he's the human, he's actually severely aged too. That's how long he's been living until he does it. And we're going back to the old thing that, of course, the walking stick that he eventually gets is actually the hammer. Right. We're going back to formula, to how it could have been and how it should have been when they were doing the material.
Right.
Yes, of course, the fun part, which something I haven't designed yet with him, with one of the scripts I've written on which is on the DeviantArt page for the Justice Legion A story, we've got a very special original character, which is in the works, which we're going to put together, which is based on more than one mythology. In this case, part of it, he is going to be an Irish superhero and protector of the legacy of Cú Chulainn from their myths, guardian of their tomb, as it were, but at the same time, he is a member of something from a very different mythological history. The superhero known as the Celt, as we call him.
What time period is that going to be?
Oh, it's set in the present.
You know what you need to do?
Yeah.
Is the open door to this should be at Trinity in Dublin.
Yes.
And they have the oldest library on the planet.
I'm sure he would go to it many times.
And they have a chunk there of, the library of the Greek library that allegedly got lost.
Right.
A good chunk of it got
it's
saved.
Still there.
There, right?
Okay.
And what's quite interesting, and the chunk that's there is the more mystic part.
Okay, he would definitely use
because Nero, when he burned Rome, they had the whole library there, and he was using those things to heat his water for his bath.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yes, he burnt millennia.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know it.
And so you need to have that guy, Nero, as the essence of the egocentric, nihilist, a guy like Trump.
Yeah,
he's Nero. He's burning.
We're still writing the Celt.
Right.
We're still writing the Celt, so I need more stuff for the story.
Right.
So I think I will add that to consideration and discuss it. Me and Brandon, that's our personal part for the heroes.
And where you so
and the other
when I met the old crone and she took me up to her farm, there was another teacher there, this guy named Archie, who was an archaeologist, and he published in the 1920s that the pyramids were machines of aliens. I mean, before ancient aliens in the 1920s, right?
Before all those
guys, he wrote, and everyone laughed at him. But he was from Scotland, and he was, an Earl, and he had more money than God. He didn't care. He just, published his books and did his research, and so we went up the west coast of Ireland, right, in a gypsy wagon, I mean, a covered wagon with a horse. You could rent them like tourists would do this, right? And you just clip, clap, clap, clap. And the horse would stop every place where he knew there'd be water and grass for him to eat, and you'd stay the night. And those were usually fairy circles,
right?
And stone circles, and that's where the gypsies would hang out.
Right.
And the first night we pulled into one of those, there was a whole gypsy caravan there.
Nice.
And instead of being scared of them, which most people are because they think they're criminals, we went and said, hey, how you doing? Hey, we got some sausage and bread. You want to have dinner? And when you are open and kind and generous to them, they'll give you the shirt off the back. And Archie knew this. So we had a nice dinner. We brought all our food together, and they told us stories. That would be a great place to start your thing, because they were talking about things that you're talking about.
Okay, very nice. I'll add that in. Thanks, Hal. Ooh, that helps open a part of the direction of what was already going to be there. Okay, that's good. But like I say, the other part of the mythology, which is going to be the mix, is because of what life form the Celt is. We're trying to get a deal haggled out with this guy to play him, but he's going to be one of the shortest heroes in the roster. He's 3'5".
You gonna be a leprechaun?
Actually, something else from a different historical mythology. A certain
Rumpelstiltskin?
a certain author from England that they just made a story about his life. Mr. John Ronald Rule Tolkien.
Oh.
You see, the Celts.
Did you go see that movie?
I'm going to see it.
Is it out yet?
Yeah, it's out. It's out. But as I say, the dear Tolkien, he of course wrote about his little people, the hobbits or the halflings, and the Celt
Right.
is a member of this civilization
Right.
in my version. Because the thing is, contrary to theory, they never died out.
No.
They are still here among us.
And what they are dimensional characters.
People just aren't very
They
good at
hide
recognizing them.
in plain sight.
Exactly.
You know?
They've
There's
even got camouflage shoes to
Right.
fool you off, but the feet are still there.
Right. And
lot.
everything is in plain sight. But we have been so domesticated through
Right.
disbelief.
Oh yeah.
As soon as you can suspend your disbelief, you can see all this stuff.
It's all around every single day.
Yep.
I've been learning to pay attention to more to my surroundings to what is usually missed.
So maybe if tonight I do a live chat from the school, we'll do a guided meditation where we go to that place where everything is in plain sight. And I'll show you how to see all of these things right in front of you.
And as for another point on the Tolkien, and have something important for this story for the JLA, the fair folk, as we've known them in myth for centuries, are still here, but right now they are the people in the criminal syndicate's concentration camps for the fear that these are a problem. So the city slums are actually the concentration camps keeping the fair folk,
Right.
which means that one member of the JLA, because his people were, in certain myths, the greatest archers of all time, will come from these camps.
And you know where those camps are? Under the cities.
Yes,
In the sewer lines.
the green arrow is an elf in my scenario.
Well, that'd be cool.
Yes,
That makes sense.
I've already designed because they are mythologically speaking one of the greatest archery cultures of all time.
Yeah,
and Green
yeah.
Arrow is supposedly the great archer beyond even the Robin Hood. Oh, how do I do my art? Okay, good question. Each one takes about 1 week to put together step by step. It starts out as a really primitive pencil sketch, usually lacking the head. We do the full body, seeing some of the details, and we do the head separately, and then we carefully put it together into the computer with ordinary paint programs and so forth. And we slowly, somewhere a range of anywhere to over 200 steps, we've put it together piece by piece,
So it's
inch
an
by
animation
inch.
frame process.
Yes, that's exactly how we put it together, like an animation frame process. And like I say, each one takes about a week. And, the brilliant thing with working with my main partner, who's actually from Ireland, I might add,
Uh-huh.
my main buddy who helps me put this together, Gary Anderson, like I say, as I said, a common paint program, and the parts of it start as a simple pencil and paper sketch with a simple pencil and paper, like I say.
But it's within the construct of computer animation frame. You frame
Is it okay? Is it a code? It's actually just pretty basically we draw it as we do it.
It's tools.
It's just tools.
And that's why it's an animation frame, because you're not doing code in that. You are just using the tools.
Exactly. That's how you do it. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to show you the process.
Now,
I did have.
code is when you're going to make an animation. That's when you need the code. You need the algorithms to move all those parts around.
Photoshop is only for something really elaborate.
And
Something
also,
truly
like
elaborate.
a photo, you take the photo and turn it into something else.
Exactly.
As
This
original
is
art.
Yeah,
this is original art.
Yeah, this is original. And this is strictly just drawing.
Right.
Like I say, my friend.
And that's why an animation frame process is because it's tools. It's not an algorithm, and there are algorithms in there, but you're not using those algorithms. You're using the tools,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just oh, what are you doing? You're collating, or you're framing on the frame. You're putting the parts together. You know?
Yes, I know the Photoshop program. I use it all the time for other things.
Right.
But no. But not for this. This is actually a little bit more simplistic of what kind of programs I'm
And
using.
you know what else? The difference between Photoshop and this process.
Hopefully I'll be around again when I'm around. Hopefully you'll be around when I'm around again, Jamie. You good work. Have a good time at work. Anyway,
He's off to work. He's always off to work.
let me see. Where is it? Where is it? Some of the other stuff I have placed
Do
in
you have
this
a Gmail
particular
account
key.
that these people can contact you at?
As I said, I have a personal email account. I'm not particularly ready to give that out at this
But
point.
if people want to contact you, it's on this other website.
It's on this other website, yes, through my notes or my account. You can just write up there, and you can actually see it. You can see all the stuff. The difference, of course, with mine. The difference with mine is, you can see these rough cuts on this little Kindle here with the pictures in my notebook at the edges. They'll have a copyright right on there. Yeah, don't worry. I'm not going to give out my personal email address. I'm waiting until I get the business one set up. Yeah, I don't need the extra clutter from the stuff until it's time. So I'm trying to set up my own website and so forth. And other stuff we haven't designed for this material. Oh yes, as you notice, the spiders with things coming out of their back, Lana, as you noted. Here's Black Widow. Black Widow, Agent of the Web, as we call it. What I lovingly call the Worldwide Eternal Balance Bureau, the WEBB. They're like something like what you would consider the White Lotus for everything to keep everything in flow where it doesn't destroy itself too easily is where they stand. And that particular Russian character, she is one of their best roster agents. Mm-hmm. There are many of them. They have been going on for a very long time. Sometimes they can consider neutral because it's more about the balance of the world than it is actually the good or evil thing. But their heart is, for the most part, in the right place of what they're doing. They understand this goes too far over here, this will not fall. And yes, I'm grateful you brought up the Harmony thing because that's something you're going to see. I mentioned earlier that I was a fan of the Sarah Jane adventure. Something that we saw in Sarah Jane was she had an antagonist known as the Trickster, who is the pantheon of Discord. In Infinite Gamer, a version of the Doctor from Doctor Who will be a member of the Mighty Crusaders, along with his enemies and a few things that have not been seen since the old series.
My favorite of Doctor Who's enemies is a Missy.
Oh yeah, well you're gonna see the Master everywhere.
Better than the Master, better than any of those other morons, because she's got a sense of humor. She's way smarter than the Doctor is.
Well, that was always the thing when it was just the Master.
Right. But that guy had such an ego. Missy doesn't really have an ego. She's just,
not anymore.
She's just in it for the fun.
Right.
You know? And that she really, 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 really likes the Doctor as her friend. He's her best friend.
That was where it was when they were kids.
And she's not fancying him. He's her best friend.
Yeah, they
and she keeps pushing his buttons just so she can say, "Yep, see, he's still my friend. Otherwise, he'd kill me or do this or do that."
Yeah, we're gonna bring them in, but
what was that thing that's a big snowflake? The Master Intelligence. I mean, that was good.
Yeah, well, that's funny because you're actually going to see that corrected and brought in because the thing about the GI, the Great Intelligence. Right. It was something from the old show. It was something from the 1960s, and something
from the
funny.
The beginning. Yeah.
Yes, and something funny about the Great Intelligence. They did the new thing where he was the living snow parasite. But you know what's funny?
What?
The original Great Intelligence had a robotic soldier in the old days, and you know what it was? What we call the Yeti or the Abominable Snowman were his soldiers. And if anyone has watched Star Wars, does anyone remember the big monstrosity from Empire Strikes Back
Right.
called the Wampa?
Right.
That is actually in our version, an industrial scale version of that thing. That's why they're on all those planets, because the GI ships them around
Yep.
to everywhere they show up.
Yep.
Yes, it's not naturally occurring. It is not really a problem.
And-
It's a carnivorous robot that looks like a beast.
My other favorite
Yes.
is the metal men. What are those guys called?
Mm-hmm.
What are those guys?
Cybermen.
Cybermen.
Yes.
Because I loved it when the head of the Cyberman was his buddy.
Oh yeah, they put handles in there.
Yeah.
It's too
He
funny.
called them handles.
Yes, we're gonna. Beg your pardon, Lana? What are you gonna say? Oh, okay. Interesting point.
What did Lana say?
I'm trying to understand her response. I'm trying to figure that one out.
Well, read what she said.
Yeah.
And what did,
Can I ask all the Star Wars fans, because it was weird looking at it, didn't get it, but I got it, and therefore I'm confused.
Well, she didn't understand at the beginning, and then she got it, and what she got confused her.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
That.
Just
yeah.
needed to be unpacked there.
All right. I'm trying to figure this all together.
So, what's your response to that one?
That is pretty much how most of life works anyway, is what
Right.
I'd say to that. Most of the time we get it, but we don't.
No, we get it, but we get confused
Yes.
because when we get it,
Mm-hmm.
it's that you're holding the microphone.
You okay, Al? Cough medicine. Straight from the bottle.
Straight by the bottom. When I
You
lived in
remind me
Dublin-
of Calvin's teacher.
when I lived in Dublin, when I was a little kid, I used to have Benylin
Uh-huh.
and Benadryl. And when I went to Ireland when I was
Mhm.
16,
Mm-hmm.
they had, and so I'm like, this kind of weather does it into my lungs, right?
Right.
And so that's Ireland. And so I went to the pharmacy and said, I need some Benadryl. Oh, yeah, we got that. And they gave it to me. And it was 30% codeine.
I will.
So the first bottle that I drank,
Sorry, Lana.
I was off the hook.
Try to take it easy, Al. Gotta be careful. It's the weather doing it to you, too. It's doing the same
Well,
thing
it's
to me.
the antibiotics I took for my teeth that
Ugh.
totally killed the flora in my gut and my body. It's just kind of coming around.
Yeah, just
I
kicking in.
I was really sick for a week.
Yeah. I've been lucky. I've been on a huge diet of vitamin C, natural oranges, and so forth to try to keep myself from, as per your advice, from getting ill again.
Right.
And I've done very well. I'm actually doing much better. But anyway, and speaking.
I don't take them unless I really have to.
Anyway,
They were bad.
yeah, as I was bringing up something important, one of the special things for JL in question, based on one of the favorite films of all time of a lot of different people, every major city in the world has cultural hubs.
Yeah.
Little Italy's Chinatown,
Yeah, right.
whatever you might call it.
Yeah.
But suppose in this world there is a community based on a different form of life. To be precise, a Toon Town.
Well, they had that.
I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the chill that
Here, give me
runs
this,
down
give
your
me this.
spine. I am Darkwing Duck.
Well, they've had, in Devil Boy,
Mhm.
what a Hellboy. In the second movie, they went to that underground thing where the princess was.
Mhm.
That's similar, and in Harry Potter, they have that town in London. That,
So yes.
I mean, there's always
Oh,
that.
Oh, thank you for bringing it up. There's something that I don't have designed, which you should keep an eye out. Lana. There's one script we've got for the first part.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of Hellboy, Lana,
Right.
he's on a special team of his own that we're designing for the films. Something. He's okay. His medicine's just kicking. And he looks all right to me now. Better than he sounded just a few moments ago. And anyway, but about Hellboy, Lana. Hellboy is from a group of a special crossover of my own invention of demonic-based entities meant to save this world. So, from every point of fiction you can find,
the gargoyles, right? Gargoyles do that, right? That the show they had on cartoon, that was those guys.
that's where I got the line. It's, if all things are true, few things are accurate. That's the thing the creator said when he created that series and everything that is in there. As I say, but the story in course I've got in mind is known as Hell Runners, and it has, at least for the starters, the first. Yeah, go ahead. I said, go on. If you have to ask me a question, go ahead. Ah. Is that so? You too, huh? You have this. You see the same thing.
What did she think?
Well, one of your other viewers just came on and said Guillermo del Toro when they took a look at me. But yes, the Guillermo del Toro, yes. I think those Hellboy movies before they reset it was one of the best things he ever did because, as I stated before earlier on this thing, one of my favorite directors of all time is Jim Henson. And it looks to me like he is trying to do Jim Henson style film for adults.
Right.
The really successful prosthetic creatures the old-fashioned without the fake CGI crap.
Right.
Which is part of the cornerstone for our film is doing it the old-fashioned way
Right.
as much as possible. If it's really there, you can reach out and touch it.
Well, you look at 2001.
I know.
Totally done with models, no computers.
No,
nothing.
he just trained those apes to do those incredible
Yeah,
things.
those were people.
Yeah, well, yes.
But I'm talking about all his space flight. No one has done a space movie like 2001
No.
ever. No matter how much computer stuff, no.
It is still an artist's piece.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I brought it up with one of the other people on this channel. Eden, something important about the Labyrinth. Of course, Pan's Labyrinth, as I jokingly think, is like an adult, edgier version of Jim Henson's Labyrinth.
Well, what are you talking about? That was pretty edgy.
That is, well, yeah, it was, but in a different way. Pan's Labyrinth is like a far more R-rated nightmare version of the same film.
But that film is pretty edgy.
Yes. I mean, seriously, you see where Sheriff's hand is on Sarah's side when she's how much younger than he is?
Yeah. And just the storyline is what's edgy, which is always, in my mind, forget whatever the image is, it's the story it's telling. That was a pretty edgy story.
Yep.
And no one could do it better than David Bowie.
Yeah, I will tell you something now. To be completely honest, it took me forever to watch that film seriously all the way through. I just couldn't get best to cover. Just looking at him, there was something very dangerous about him. And my favorite joke from something which I believe you will find behind you on the shelf from Mr. Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman was asked to reinvent a crappy character known as the Sandman from DCU. He said, no, I'm not going to write that. I'm going to write a story about the Sandman, the Lord of the Dreams.
Right.
And what did he decide to do? He wrote a chapter where Morpheus went down to get one of his tools from the bowels of hell.
Right.
And how did
Hades.
Gaiman design Lucifer the Morningstar? He drew him with David Bowie's face.
Right.
He drew him with his face,
Yeah.
mismatched eyes, and everything.
Yeah.
And that is actually pretty true. That is actually pretty true, what it was. Oh, you've seen David Bowie's eyes. Come on, one of them's brown, one of them's blue,
Yeah,
technically speaking.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon? Who? What?
Well, people are walking behind you.
People are walking around all the time. I don't see anything. We're
sitting in this little alcove, and behind them is where they check books out. That's all.
Oh, just somebody trying to indicate business at the library counter. That's all that's going on.
Yep.
We're sitting right in the middle of the thoroughfare of everything that goes out. This is my little space where I work on the stuff from
It's
week to
a
week.
little nook.
Yes, the little book nook with the graphic novels on the
Nice,
section.
comfy chairs and a
Right.
table.
Right.
Nice window.
Yeah,
looking out
if
there.
it was the right week, I would be in the back room all the way in the back, which is the meeting room for the comic club. That's where we would normally be
Right.
if they were in, which they're not. The guy who runs it is currently trying to get a different job right now. We're kind of postponed. But as I was stating to your question earlier, as I say, you'll be seeing Hellboy in a special team, which is called the Hell Runners, which has got, for starters, 9 of the most iconic characters from fiction when it comes to demonic entities. So it's got Hellboy, it's got Ghost Rider, John Constantine,
Mm-hmm.
Etrigan from DCU, the Demon of Merlin. It has... Who else is in there? Oh, yes. It has Todd McFarlane's Spawn. And for the last couple of things, we have Morrigan from
Is Spawn-
Darkstalkers.
Is Spawn that character that Spawn comes from space and is like a parasite and gets inside this guy who's a newspaper guy?
No, that's not him.
Do you know the movie I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's a completely different thing. But Spawn was a Marine and worker for the CIA by the name of Al Simmons. Al Simmons, of course, from living a life as a soldier, killing people means, of course, the demons are watching you and what you do. So he was betrayed by one of his fellow soldiers on the authority of his boss because his morality got the better of him when he was supposed to be doing a job. So they burned him and buried him alive. And of course, because of what he was like, he met the 8th Lord of Hell known as Malapoggia, and Malapoggia went, "Hey, I'll send you back to Earth and let you see your wife again, get your life back. On one condition, you become the captain of Hell's armies." He agreed and was reborn as the Spawn, the Hell Spawn. Of course, it was a trick because it was 5 years later. He's still burned all over.
Right.
And his wife has moved on to marry his best friend and actually had a child he couldn't have with him.
Right.
So, yes.
That's how it works when you make a deal.
That's what happens when you make a deal with the devil.
Yes,
That is actually how it happens. But Spawn, of course, would be the most powerful. He would be like the Superman of our team. The last two
kids don't make a deal with the devil. No matter how good it seems. Yeah, no matter how good it seems, don't do it. I've been there, and I've always been blessed to go. I don't think so.
No, none of it comes to me. Like I say. The last two, also, some of these will be video game characters from Demons. The last two, of course, are the legendary Dante and Virgil, not from the Divine Comedy, but for the characters from the legendary gaming series Devil May Cry. The sons of the demon Sparta who betrayed Hell and locked the door so that they couldn't actually hurt us.
Yep.
So you'll be seeing those running as the driving force for this little team. If you don't know these, you should look up the games of the animated series for this one. Later,
in The
Simpsons,
they named Homer Simpson after Homer,
right?
Greek playwright.
Yes, the playwright, the poet from the ancient
and
Greece.
that's our boy Homer.
Yep,
and
that is exactly.
The most amazing things come out of Homer's mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am definitely in a crossroads. Thank you. Yeah, we all do. You know, my favorite realization about Matt Groening with his work is, he loved doing it, and he just did that to get established. And yet, when he went to do the thing he really wanted to do, he had actually grown as a really good writer. Because the next thing he did, the thing he really wanted to do, was Futurama. And something everyone should look for that series, there was a story arc later on in the seasons where it turns out the reason that the primary character Fry fell into the cryo tank was because Nibbler was under the desk and he pushed him into it. Now, this reveal does not come for 2 or 3 seasons later. However, if you watch the first episode in season 1 when he falls in, freeze the image in mid-frame as he's falling when it's looking at the wall, and you will see Nibbler's shadow on the wall as he falls, because he was planning that thing in the fourth season from the very beginning.
So, what do you think about Matt being a time traveler? Because there's so much in The Simpsons and Futurama that have to do with, you know, he Matt has to do with time travel, but he gives spoilers on what's going to happen 10 years from now.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he goes on and
he's
on
very
about,
notorious for that.
You know, about Trump winning, and I mean,
yeah,
of
course, my favorite joke about one of those episodes with Futurama with the story is that with the first appearance of the what if machine,
right?
The fact when the reality falls apart because he never ended up the future and the time and everything. My favorite thing of member of Stephen Hawking's team is of course Gary Gygax, who designed Dungeons and Dragons. So they're in an empty white spoil voucher. So, anyone want to play Dungeons and Dragons for the next 50 quadrillion years? For the rest of eternity.
And that's what I mean about Matt. He's really got a trickster element to him. Because it's not just like Rocky and Bullwinkle or any of those, which was a great show.
Right.
And it was hip, and it gave a lot of tip of the hat of what's going on.
Yeah.
But didn't have the depth of the human experience.
Right.
I mean, everybody
that's
was
something.
A character is.
That is something that excelled. That's one of the other reasons why I'm doing with this hero fiction right here. Something important I'm trying to do. It's something I don't like when we film adaptation of the thing. Is, you know, in defense of your statement about the Marvel thing, I really don't think of them as truly bona fide human. I really don't.
No, they are stereotypes.
Yes, they are very stereotyped. They're not like. That's the beautiful thing of me trying to write this stuff, is when I write this, I don't just write it. All the people you will find in my fiction, hero villain, whichever side of the conflict you're on, they are somebody real that I have known.
Right.
They are somebody just by walking, going to all these places, and living in all these places where, oh, this is what real people actually act like.
That's what art is. It's the individual as the artist, as the innocent, naive savage experiencing. Why did the savage put the image on the cave wall? He wasn't going to be famous or anything. He had to express himself.
Exactly.
So that's what you're doing in your art. You're expressing from your experiences, right? And that's what art is.
That is exactly what I'm shooting for. That is exactly what I'm going for. I mean, all the things you'll find here. And, you know, you will find certain cultural references. I'm not expecting everyone to get them automatically, but those are not like the basic principle of what I'm doing. They're just there to add to the fun.
Right.
What I really want is I want the people to just get into these characters and enjoy and identify and be able to see it.
Experience the experience almost vicarious. And instead of just watching whiz-bang explosions and things vicariously, or horror vicariously, you are experiencing the human condition vicariously, which is something important. And again, and that's what art is. Why do you go to the museum and look at Van Gogh's paintings? Because you're experiencing Van Gogh's, what he saw, Starry, Starry Night, the flowers, all of those kind of things. And that's what makes it art, is not because this old guy did it.
Yeah, and something special I've done.
It puts you in that place.
Something special I've done with this latest point, the designs for the JLA, which is in the first script I posted, something to tribute a man who is always artistic integrity before the marketability, which is how he did it for years. Some horrible person took it and made those awful bumper stickers based on his art. I, on the other hand, went for a different type. Comic strip artist Bill Watterson,
who was famous for
his creation Calvin and Hobbes, one of the most iconic comic
And
strips
the
of all
bumper sticker
time.
of him pissing.
Yeah, that guy messed with his stuff and made that without his permission. Well, I want to bring Summa the Beauty back to what was supposed to be in that story, and for that, I've done my own honest representation of something from his stuff. When Calvin was a little kid in the strip, something he used to do at the age of 6 was pretend to be a superhero that was something between the Batman and Superman.
Right, he
With
had
the
his
powers,
cape. He had his
but the
cape.
mind. And for me, I am so basically in our story, jump 10 years. He's 16 in years old now, and it becomes the real thing for him. And the tiger, the stuffed tiger that was Jim friend, comes back and becomes real again
tiger.
after all this time.
His sidekick.
His sidekick, dear old Hobbs,
Right.
the best of the best. You know, the girl he used to pick on as a child is now his girlfriend, of course. But
Right.
that's, surprise, surprise. That's
No,
how
it isn't.
life works out.
That's what love's about.
That's how things go.
Yeah,
But as I say,
yeah.
so
Well,
he's
that's
going
a
to be
good
in
idea.
there.
That's a winning idea. I like that.
Everybody.
But what is his zed of be? His reason, his environment, his challenge.
Here comes a fun part because I actually get to talk about Stupendous Man for a change because I haven't been able to discuss that for a while now. Stupendous Man is
What?
Stupendous Man. That's what he used to call himself.
Oh, okay.
That's what the superhero identity is. But Stupendous Man, let me give you the background of his origin of how it happened. Centuries ago, before he was a thing, the Greek culture came up with the suggestion of a race which they called the Muses.
Right.
But these were not actually strictly just a god and goddesses of the arts. They
How
were a
about the
real
Titans?
thing.
How about the Titans?
Yes, the Muses were a race in my fiction known as the Enigami, living bastions of creativity and pure imagination which are still with us today.
Which is the Muse.
Precisely, which is still the Muse. And what happens with him, there are like the two of the most powerful, at least for each letter of the Greek alphabet, which is the Alpha and the Omega. There is an original, which is the Alpha, known as the Artiste, which, when I get that design, I'll discuss that at a later date.
The savage in the first person.
Yes. On the other hand, the Omega is Calvin himself,
Ah.
which is the last letter.
Right.
And for it, it goes something like this. Jump forward, a few decades ago before now, when his parents wanted to have a child, but like so many different people, the genetics just weren't in it.
Right.
They couldn't have kids, and his mother wanted one. And yet, there's a surprise, the scary thing about their little suburban town sitting on the edge. Their little suburban town is built on a special fault line. It is a reality fault line, which means things in the dreamscape can just pop in and pop out at will whenever it shifts wildly. So she wants a child, and to their great surprise, a bizarre apparition comes out of the rift and comes up to the chimney. It is a big, hairy pterodactyl, which drops a bundle with a baby unceremoniously down the chimney, with instructions in the bundle which says, use these items to raise the child, which turned out to all the blue light special items at a Kmart store. This little town is sitting on
So he was the what do they call the guys who bring babies? The stork. He was
Yes, but
basically-
it was a big hairy pterodactyl
Okay.
instead.
Right.
And so he grew up, he developed the imagination. He accidentally caught the stuffed tiger in a tiger trap rigged with a tuna fish sandwich. And he spent with him his imaginary friend for years. They got into all the shenanigans. He grew up. He stopped pretending to be things in class, and he got to 16. Important thing, his town is sitting on a suburban outlet on the edge away from both New Gotham and Metropolis in this case. So he hears the news about the Batman Superman all the time as inspired. Back when he was in school, he used to pretend to be an alter ego he was supposed to be studying in class known as Spaceman Smith. Which was a sort of parody of the Flash Gordon sort of thing.
Right.
And everyone he would view would be the aliens and stuff. Little does Calvin realize...
So was this the original comic strip
Yeah, this is
stuff?
based on the original concept, which I am modifying with a bit of my
Right.
uses.
Right.
But basically, at some point he stopped being him, but something he didn't realize about Spiff, which is how this story opens, is in some reality, Spaceman Spiff was a very real thing fighting against alien menaces in a different time zone.
Right.
And then when Kelvin stopped pretending to be him, he was critically declared dead. But all the enemies he made in the fantasies wouldn't let it be at that and were not convinced it happened. So Calvin's going to a high school class, and then all of a sudden a rip opens up in the sky, and all these things from his imagination bounce out at random.
So he has to deal with it.
So he has to face it, and what happens is with the rift, the powers manifest. And instead of just pretending to be Stupendous Man as he is a child, he becomes the real thing.
And
Hobbs comes back to life.
What is Stupendous Man's power?
Stupendous Man's powers, as I say, within Inagami's powers are pure imagination. When he first started, the basic thing he could do was he did a lot of imitation of what Superman can do, and then he actually got smarter in school and started to build himself up mentally like Batman so he could learn how to fight more accurately like him. But that was just for starters. The powers evolve at some point because of what he is. He's almost like a one-man member of the Legion itself with all the things he can do because the limits are simply everything he can come up with.
What is imagination? And the muses can put forth.
Exactly. That is how he functions. That is how everything works. Important note, there was a little arc in there which is going to go into the story, which is there was a part of the original comic strip where, can we talk about him? If you want to talk about him, yes, I do actually have that one designed, as a matter of fact. She's asking me about the Man of Steel. I was wondering if someone would ask me about that. Yes, I've got 2 different versions of that. Well, I can guarantee you my S is very different for the way I designed it. Something important. Right now, I've just been showing you the...
Well, that S
character
is supposed to be
sketches.
snakes.
Right, it's supposed to be the ancient healing sign for
Right.
snakes.
Right.
That is actually what that's supposed to be. But something I have yet to put in front of you here, I've done a bunch of the characters, as you see. What I haven't shown you, which is where it started, before I actually did the character thing, something I did, which was far more basic, was I started doing all the logos. See if I can find it. Where I put that thing. And here is my Superman S.
Hmm.
The important thing, what I did with it, does anyone remember the rather ridiculous part of the Christopher Reeve Superman film where he basically turned time backwards by spinning backwards the Earth?
Yep.
The idea of my Superman is he technically didn't actually do this the correct way, which is shifting himself backwards through time because of how much faster he could move.
And
To
you have to
affect
do it
this
around
change.
the sun and not the earth.
Precisely. That's how it would really work. So the thing I've done with the Superman S, the story I have is Superman Chronomorph, and if you'll note with the S symbol, it's actually a 36-hour day clock because that's one of the time scales of how we measure time in outer space for the astronauts, and he is an alien being.
Right. He is an astronaut.
Exactly, that has come to our world, so that was one of the basic designs of where that's going to change. Important note, however, when we're bringing that, as I said, I was talking about Infinite Gamer earlier. You just came on here, like you didn't get to see this if you weren't here last week, but in Infinite Gamer, Superman is very different.
Right.
Kal-El was born a girl in that universe, so is Superwoman. And the important note with
You
the
should have him as a super transsexual.
something funny. Something funny. As I said,
He lands, and everyone thinks he's a boy, and then around 16, he wants to
yes,
change into a girl.
yes, I've seen that program. It's very hard for me to get into that one, sadly. just a bit. I'm not very fond of the Black Mirror program. I think it goes a little bit over the top of what it's trying to say when it's trying to put something out.
What do you think it's trying to say?
I think it's supposed to be a professional horror program, and someone's trying to do something better than the Twilight Zone. But the biggest problem with the decline of most horror films is we see too much.
Right.
Fear and terror is almost better
when you don't see it.
When you don't see it.
Right? And
yes, it's always a little bit more funny. And I mean, you can't really top the Twilight Zone.
No.
You really can't. There are people that can try, but you really can't, because something great about that program was it really knew how to scare you.
And the other
strange.
thing, it ran this really great edge between humor,
Right.
pathos, and the mystery of what goes bump in the night.
Exactly.
And
It
so you
did
never
that
saw
very
what
well.
went bump in the night.
Mhm.
And if you ever saw anything close to it, like that one
Mhm.
where Bill Shatner is in that coffee shop hitting the thing,
The Mystic Seer, and what
right.
happens.
And he finally, and it doesn't give him the real answer. And his wife finally gets fed up and gets on the bus. And so he goes, and the bus goes into the drink. And, the commercial, come back, and the guy who's running the coffee shop is there with a little hat on, and he's talking. And this policeman come in, oh, there's been an accident, da 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 da. And there's a guy drinking coffee, and the guy behind it, they're talking. And basically, this one guy says, well, I'm from Mars, and the other goes, well, I'm from Saturn. And the guy from Mars, he's lighting a cigarette, so arms start coming out of his raincoat.
Of course.
So he's got 4 arms. One holds the pack, one holds the cigarette, one has a lighter, right? And the other, and he's doing it thinking he's going to scare the Earthling, right?
But of course it's not.
Because he's from Saturn, and he pushes his hat up, and he has his third eye up there.
Of course.
So during the whole thing, you get the sense there's something else going on here.
Right.
But the reveal is that Shatner's just nuts, right?
Of course.
But he's not.
Right.
Just like the one where he's on the airplane.
Which is still my favorite.
And they take him out in the straitjacket, and then, as he's getting put in.
He's the only one who knows what really happened.
But then the mechanic goes, look at this engine killing. What happened? It looks like there was some kind of guy with big claws ripping it apart.
Exactly.
Right? And
there's something on the wing of the plane.
Right. And that's the beauty of Twilight Zone, and that you get to feel rather than see the bump in the night through the characters.
I know that was my favorite thing when they did The Batman Begins, when Nolan actually shot that film. Something brilliant he did with The Dark Knight when he shot him was he doesn't usually shoot where we see him. He shot it mostly from the criminal's perspective of what they see. The bump as at night, where this guy keeps shooting his gun at the cameras because he hears this thing fluttering. He can't see it. He keeps freaking out, and finally, where are you?
Right.
Here. He's right behind him.
Gets hung up on the ceiling like a ham.
Exactly. That's where it really goes. Yes.
So the real problem with all these movies, there's too much whiz bang and explosions.
Yeah, I'm very against that sort of thing. I think there should be a way to bring back some subtlety.
Well, and there are, and all these, especially the Marvel movies, the only good thing about them is a little bit of subtlety they have.
Yeah,
I mean, the little bit.
Yeah, because there isn't really much there. No, it's just. It's this guy throwing the push, Disney's at this, we sit on the world, we just make it for our money, we line our pockets, and we don't use the money for anything really good that can help people.
Right, or culture.
Right.
I mean, there are a lot of people who made money on things, but they dumped it back into the cultural motif.
Right.
And that was what was helping the folk.
It's funny that you bring that up, Lana, by the way, because there's something
What
a
did
little
she
bit...
say?
Well, something funny, because she's apparently a fan of the Game of Thrones program.
Right.
Something fun for you to look out for when we get there. Most of you have been doing a lot of talking about the hero fiction. I wish my main buddy Brandon was here, because this is his project. We have something very special for fantasy circles that is not a hero fiction, which is set in its own world. It's better just known as The Circle. And The Circle... The circle is, to explain it, a version of the Men in Black for the fantasy adventure and the mysticism setting set in the modern era. And something you're going to see, which is familiar to somebody who's working on the staff. Mind you, he's hidden the damages to his face with a little beard, and because of what happened the last time we saw this god.
Right.
You see, he calls himself LT Silver. Loki with the silver tongue. Because if anyone knows the myth of what happened in mythology with Loki and Thor, what eventually happened was he caused a problem where Balder the Brave was killed. But as Loki puts it himself, it was like a joke. He compares Asgard with the university campus, and he was just trying to teach Thor and Balder a lesson for all the jocks.
Right.
That's what he considered Thor and all the muscle-bound Asgardian great gods that with the warrior culture, he considered them the jocks in his culture. Well, he was the geeks and nerds side. And of course, the prank just went completely wrong because Baldur died with that prank.
Well, we take Loki further back. He's Lucifer.
Yeah,
we are the prank. Humanity is the freaking prank.
Right.
You know,
Yes, like I say.
he was the guy who gave us free will.
Yes,
Not our conscious free will, but the free will where I can eat as many Twinkies as I want.
No stop button, no some back when some part of it should go, no, step back, don't jump off this cliff very much, you're not going to survive the fall. Right. That sort of thing.
Yes, right.
But so many of us, it's because of our human nature with that change, just go, no, we just want to do this stupid thing.
And we don't really want to, because Loki stuck it in our DNA, because everything else was on the frame of the great hegemony of heaven's basic law, and everybody went along with
and of course, that's the important question which I've asked myself many times.
Yeah.
What if right is wrong and wrong is right?
Well, there is no wrong or right. That's the real deal. The real deal is you are Donald Duck with an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the better. And you get to choose whether to be that demonic character or your better angel.
Precisely.
And with enough time,
choice.
You get it's choice. And
my favorite thing,
no matter how it turns out at the moment, in the long run, much better to be that angel.
Yes, you just have to make the choice. That's the brilliant thing. Something that a lot of people don't get, which bringing that up as a favorite point of required ring for gang on the FDK project. Of course, there's a great thing. Aw.
What'd she say?
So why are we all just listening to bullshit?
Why? Because it's easier. I mean, I was talking to somebody about this. I'm writing this thesis on the alternative aesthetic. You know what? I keep talking about it.
Oh, I don't think she's talking to us.
Oh, one of the other characters?
Yeah, I think she's talking to someone that we do not see.
What is my battery, Mike? Am I doing okay?
Yeah, you're doing just fine.
What just beeped?
That was me.
Oh, okay.
That was my message on this whole thing.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just my old email server is just dinging. It makes that noise. If it's a different thing, I would be more important.
Oh, it sounds just kind of like my battery thing. Anyway, but
we just.
But why we choose the wrong thing all the time? I mean, people will be happy to live in hell rather than challenge what's comfortable. Hell can be very comfortable, but we don't step up because it gets us out of our comfort zone.
Right.
One of the things Loki stuck us in was a comfort zone.
Yes, but as I say, but something you say about this, Lana. The important problem, as I say, the very thing which the good thing we do is when we're given the choice, sometimes we make the wrong choice. And all these medias that you're talking about that we get attached to, it's a vicious cycle that we ourselves have just put ourselves in.
Well, no, the hidden hand is.
Yeah, the hidden hand.
We of commercialism, we didn't choose this.
Yeah.
But the real deal is, if you wanted to be free, if you wanted to change the world, throw your smartphone in the garbage pail.
Precisely. Guess what? That of course brings up. Guess what I'm using? Guess what I'm using, you lot?
Your flip phone.
I'm using an old-fashioned flamethrower, which I continue to take good care of.
Right.
I have not upgraded to a smartphone. I am not ever going
Yeah, but
to
you know it's sad.
upgrade
I
to a
had
smartphone.
my favorite flip phone, and my provider switched the operating system so that phone you had to have a smartphone.
I know, that's actually the horrible thing that they have to do.
Yep. So you're lucky that your provider still allows you to use your flip phone.
Thing over. Well, I don't do the same thing over and over again with my work. I always try to do something a little bit different, but
But the thing about good and bad,
Mm-hmm.
if you do the wrong thing,
Mm-hmm.
if you learn from that experience, then it's good.
Precisely.
That's
and
why
every
good
mistake,
and bad doesn't exist. It's irrelevant. It's what you learn from the experience.
everything.
A lot of people want, why can't I just live in heaven and have $1 billion and no problems?
Yeah.
Well, then you'd be a couch potato.
Expectations too high. That's some
Yes.
expectations too high. No. Something about how.
What?
Yeah, as I say, something I try to do is try to find a new way to think, while at the same time touching the old past is still there. The important thing to do,
learning from the experience,
right? The
but
important
pushing
thing,
forward,
yes,
stepping forward, not staying in the same place,
exactly,
moving forward
right,
without any expectations. Expectations is the kiss of death.
exactly. I'm not expecting for this success. That is merely just hope. I just
Do it because you have to.
I do it because I have to, and I do it because it's something I just enjoy.
Yeah.
This is just something I like doing. It's everything I do. There's something that's been going on in
And
my
it
family
also
for
gives
ages
you
with our
a
art.
frame to reanimate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of you just think what life would be if you were still the same Robert that you were when you were 16. I mean,
Which I'm not.
I've known you probably 6 years, give or take,
Right.
and you were a totally different guy than you were 6 years ago.
That was actually my best thing. Remember when I introduced you to Dan?
Mm-hmm.
I finally had a very good conversation with him about our friendship and why he continuously comes back and continues our friendship. And I know my reasoning for him, but he finally explained his reason for him. It's one of the most profound things he said. He's always got profound things to say, by the way. That's kind of his M.O.
Right.
Wisdom beyond his much older years.
Mm-hmm.
But something he said, the reason why he keeps coming back every time in my life is because he's curious to witness my evolution as a person.
Yeah.
Because he knew me before you and I met
Right.
in the high school era around that point,
Right,
and he
right.
saw what I was like then.
Right.
We came back into each other's life closer to now,
Right.
and he was just intrigued and fascinated, and so we keep going, and we keep it together, and he's like, well, my two best buddies that works with this stuff on
Right.
mine.
Right. Well, that's the essence of a good friend.
Right.
You don't want that person to be anything other than what they are now and can be in the future. You
Exactly.
want them to move forward, do better, be happy, be popular, be successful,
Mm-hmm.
be whatever they need to be their best.
Right.
And a lot of people need to screw up to be their best,
Yep, you have to make the mistakes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like, despite not liking bits of that particular Batman movie, that is actually one of my favorite things, even though it tripped down up in the end, something that the Riddler was doing the entire film. He kept giving all those convoluted riddles, which were just to clue Bruce Wayne in that, guess what? Your man who worked at the company didn't commit suicide. I killed him, splitting up among 4 riddles.
Right.
But the riddles seem to be about basic, normal things and the answers, but the answer is not in the answer. It's in the questions, because every single one of them had a number in it, which were an identification for his unusual name when you run it through the alphabet. And my favorite thing about the very last one, maybe if he hadn't put the last one in there, he would not have been caught and defeated like that for part of the game. But before he did it, my favorite thing he says, Two-Face has already bullet wounded Bruce Wayne. He's unconscious, and he could very easily just end him right then and there. But then, of course, there's about to no! Don't kill him. If you kill him, puts the last riddle next to him. He won't learn nothing.
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it is. He did fumble a foot, but yes, but that's true. Yes, we are only human. That is correct.
And we're neither bad nor good.
Nope. Good and evil are our concepts.
Yeah.
It's just something that we've tried to make for the
No, that's
excuses.
the advertising agency put in
Exactly.
on the religion.
Yeah, that Al, if you get some time, that's something you'll like. I mentioned the character which you weren't completely from, which was Spawn.
Uh-huh.
You really should read Todd McFarlane's Spawn because something important I'll bring up is, this guy is supposedly the captain of Hell's armies, but the guy has got a human heart and ethics, so the lines between the heaven and hell and the agencies which run them get all blurred.
And if you read Dante's Inferno, that is the bottom line of that story, and that's why it's called the Grand Comedy.
Precisely.
Because back in the day, if you dissed the Catholic Church, they'd burn you at the stake. So he's making a commentary on that whole thing, but he had to do it in such a way where he wasn't going to get tied to a stake.
As I say, for me, I'm study of all world religions as part of some of the stuff that goes into all this stuff I'm writing. Now that you bring that up, yes, I've been doing that for years. I started out, might have been raised Christian, but I don't actually follow the guidelines as that's so adequately put.
It's irrelevant because Christianity, the Hebrew nation, and Islam are all the same thing.
That is exactly why I listen to all three sides.
Right. And
I listen to all three.
I would sure love to see Christians pray 5 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
I would surely. I mean, the basic tenet of Islam is hospitality.
So you are a big lover of Tolkien and the Middle Earth. That's good. Then I guess you'll probably like that character I came up with when we get to that point in the hero fiction. The dear old killed halfling and some of the stuff with the Green Arrow. Oh, fun part. Hawkeye is also more the fair folk, but from the other side. He's a goblin in my version. And Arrow's going to be using a simple bow and arrow. Hawkeye's going to be using a crossbow in the JLA, I might add. From the different things, which, if you remember Tolkien, that was kind of the thing between the two sides of the elves and the orcs. So
the orcs had crossbows.
Yes. So you're going to be saying, hang on, just to bring in the friction of the two best archers.
And the bow actually is a much better weapon because you can shoot a lot more arrows.
Exactly.
Than having to pull that thing back and stick it in there.
Well, the one I'm deliberately using is the one that Jackson supposedly designed for. Which have you seen what they use for that?
Oh, like a machine gun.
It's a pump action crossbow.
Right.
It just automatically puts back, so you can automatically load it. There's something.
But
they
it
invented.
still takes longer than.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Of course, the fun thing about Hawkeye is Hawkeye's got the trick arrow, which has 1 million arrows shrunk down inside, which you shoot the one, it rains on you.
Yeah. Which was what the Greeks did.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they had the archers.
Mm-hmm.
That was their artillery, and then when Arthur brought on the longbow, man, they could shoot that thing almost a half a mile.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on where they were and how the wind was going. It was a pretty nasty weapon, and the inertia of that arrow coming down would go right through people's shields,
right,
and like through their hand, and
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty bloody. That's why I'm not a big fan of violence.
Right. Well, you do it the smart way, Al.
Yeah, I get out of harm's way.
Yes.
I mean, I was taught to, defend myself, but I kept saying, this ain't defense. I end up breaking someone's arm. That's not defense.
Right.
Breaking their leg, that's not defense.
Mm-hmm.
A lot better to know when they're a mile away and just get out of dodge.
Yeah, one of my... Yeah, one of my special symbols I did right from the beginning when it started, because it started on the Batman binge thanks to my father's traumatic introduction to the experience, which put me up in front of it.
Right.
But something important that happened not very long after that fact. Went to a funeral of a friend for when my grandfather died. I saw this tombstone, which was in the shape of an angel which had its hands in prayer. I took a picture of the stone angel, cut the thing apart, and put it back together, and turned it a different color. And when I kept the basic shapes and did this, it became this.
I'm baffled.
Yes. But that was the first thing. That
Angels
was
are the most. They are soldiers of heaven that kill everyone.
except for my
Kill
Batman.
everything and let God sort it. I mean, that's the job of the angels. Kill everyone.
Right, that's the fun difference with the Batman Archangel, because the Batman is an angel that is sworn not to kill.
Right, he messes you up, but
Yes.
he doesn't kill you.
Right, but that's the thing. So this goes back all the way to the Old Testament,
Which gives you the opportunity to learn something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He will do anything else but.
Right.
I've done many different things. Of course, let me see. I have been going over a lot of, the heroes and stuff I've got on here, but something I have kind of neglected because I haven't been talking on that is we do actually have a few minor takes on the villains in our work. That's Division still needs a lot more work, but I do have a few different things in mind. You'll see us everywhere, even in your nightmares.
Let's see.
There's no more Eddie, and there's no more symbiote. We are Venom.
That's the guy I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one, Venom.
Right.
And I like that movie because there was pathos, empathy, and humor.
Right.
The Eddie was washing off on the space creature. I like you.
Okay, you were talking about the actual Venom movie they did not that long ago.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what you were referring to. Okay,
Right.
that's why I got confused for a
Right.
second. Yeah, I was okay. Yes, that
Eddie.
One, but yes,
Eddie
Brock.
and the other side of the coin, the space creature made Eddie more humble.
Mm-hmm.
Made him, a better guy.
Mm-hmm. And something a little special for similar.
And I liked when Eddie's girlfriend got the space creature in her.
Uh-huh.
So she got to Just what was that show? That movie
Mm-hmm.
where this guy was he had enough in him to be almost cool, but he was a loser. Supposed to be writing a book, and he didn't. And this buddy of his had some kind of drug he took, and it made his brain amazing. Right? You saw that movie, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And so he, kept taking it, and became rich and famous and da da da.
Limitless.
Limitless.
You're talking about Limitless,
right?
Okay.
And then
exactly
he kind of, had to, he couldn't get his stash, and he stole it from this other guy. He lost it, and his girlfriend had to get it for him. And then the murderers were coming after her, and the only way she could get out is take it herself.
Uh-huh.
And before she did that, she just called him a drug addict, loser.
Right.
And when she took it, it's just like Eddie's girlfriend took it and said, "Okay, now I understand."
Right.
And she said, "Okay, but
Right.
don't ever let me take this crap anymore."
Right. But as I say, and by the way, speaking of the known comics, there's one particular Batman villain that, of course, is on the design board of stuff I've done. It's okay. Nobody's gonna hurt you. Of course they are. Crane? No. Scarecrow.
Oh yeah, Scarecrow. Yeah. Well, that was a character that was not developed enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna fix it up because do you want to know the background on this one in my version?
Sure.
Crane in this case.
Because you know what we missed in Crane? His backstory.
Yeah,
Why he
the Batman
was-
Begins never explained. Let me tell you Crane's
Right.
actual backstory, the way it's written.
That's what's missing.
Okay, Crane was a kid that murdered his own mother on Mother's Day years ago and had a ton of things. His favorite thing, he loved to frighten birds as a child. And he became a heavily mental student, learning everything about humanity, and eventually grew up to become
Shrink.
a psychology professor to be exact at the Gotham State University. So he went out there, but the thing was, he was so much on the value of things of the mind, he kind of lacked the human empathy and emotion to go with it. So everyone thought this guy was a little bit nuts, which is not far from the truth.
Right.
And basically, what he decided to do was, to earn his respect, because they equate currency and wealth instead of knowledge.
Right.
So he decided to use the fact of the insult of what the professors called him as birds. He liked to frighten birds, so he literally dressed himself up as a scarecrow, and then he became an actual murderer with his first client's, opponent, and actually found that he enjoyed it. And something else that he had developed, his father had developed a chemistry which was specifically designed to relieve people of fear, but of course, it did the exact opposite.
Right.
And Crane turned that into his greatest weapon.
He weaponized it.
He weaponized it into the aerosol gas that we saw. Something important about the actual Batman story is they never give this chemical a name. Well, me and Brandon actually gave it a name. Demosanol. Named for the god of terror of Greek mythology, because fear is actually pretty straightforward. Terror itself takes millions of different forms, just like whatever you see whenever he gasses you with the stuff.
Yep. It comes from your comes from your id, basically.
Yes.
Monsters from
the
id.
monsters from within.
Yep.
Favorite of original sci-fi.
Oh yeah.
So it's still
Forbidden
standing
Planets.
out. Yes.
Because
Still
it's Shakespeare
standing
and
out.
it's Greek,
Right. Like I say, it's my...
And that was the Star Wars of its time.
Right.
Robbie
And of course,
the Robot and the Flying
so I got
Saucer.
lots of Inhuman monsters. Also, I've got one which is basically just the monster scenario, I might add, because one of these enemies for the Batman Authority is not a maniac. He's a considerably professional criminal officer.
But that, you can only succeed at that if you're a sociopath.
Well, that's what I liked about Gotham when we actually got his backstory, because he does fit the bill. You know what I'm talking about?
You got to be a sociopath.
Oswald Cobblepot,
Yeah.
the Penguin, was who I was about to refer to. And here we have it. With all the trick umbrellas in the span, with each different weaponized function, which is kind of his little gimmick.
Yep. His tuxedo and his umbrella.
Right.
I thought Gotham, in the basic Batman Bible, they really didn't build Penguin's backstory, but the TV show Gotham did a really great job.
Yeah, they finally started doing it very, very well. I was very pleased with at least him.
Right, he
when they did it when
because they took him all the way back to the kid and his mom and her boyfriends and this, and how he got into the crime, and that he was the lowest man on the totem pole,
who rose to the very, very top of the crime
because no one ever thought he could.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Except for the girl who was the boss.
Mm-hmm.
She kept, putting him up the ladder because she saw the qualities in him.
My
and
favorite.
He loved her, so she thought and he kept loving her even every time he threw her under the bus. She could come back and.
My favorite little joke was them inventing the new monster, which was Fish movie. I was like, I know where this goes, you lot. Don't you know that penguins eat fish?
Right.
They eat it by the truckload. That was actually my favorite thing when Riddler actually said that out loud. I was like, oh, we were all thinking that already. Speaking of such things, of course, I couldn't do the Bat, of course.
So did the TV Gotham have the Riddler or the Joker in it? I didn't watch it enough to know.
Beg your pardon. Did they actually do the Joker?
Right.
Yeah, he did pop in later. I like the fallen setup for that, for what they did, because we actually saw him in season 1, and then season 2 they tried to trick the audience to think it wasn't him by killing him on screen, which
Right.
of course starts his legacy. Because as far as I know, in canon, Joker actually can't die.
Right.
He actually can't die.
And that's
So
why
that's
he's the Joker.
exactly.
That's the big joke.
I know, that was the beautiful thing. So he was lying dead with a hole in his chest on a slab in the morgue, but he was dead
Smiling.
like this.
Yeah, right.
He was, and the great thing about it, the last thing we heard on screen was all the innocence, and when we thought he was dead, which was his father that he kills last time, which was, you little children will run away from your image, and you will leave behind an eternal legacy of madness and death. Which, of course,
What he is.
exactly what
he is.
that character
Is.
Yep. That is exactly what it is. That is how he functioned. But my favorite thing, so he was dead for part of season 2, and then season 3 they started resurrecting all the dead villains, and of course he popped up again. As he put it, "You ain't seen nothing yet." That's exactly what.
So did they have the Riddler?
Oh yeah, Riddler was in season 1 too. He was working with the police, which made perfect sense. Before he fell.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah, he was the guy with the glasses.
Yes, he was the guy with the glasses. He was already had the Riddle thing, and
he not only was he a sociopath, that guy had multiple personalities.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So do you know if they have Batman at the library?
I don't see why it wouldn't be in the system. We got the graphic novels over here on the shelf. But you see, it would. I wouldn't see that they wouldn't have the film franchise. Of course, at home I don't need to rent it, because you can probably imagine I've got all the live action films sitting on my shelf, which is unlucky for me because I don't have the really good stuff, which was the animated stuff.
Uh-huh.
Which was the really big thing from the 1990s and onward, which
Right,
they're
right,
getting
right.
ready to bring back.
Oh.
Good. And something great about that
Are
series.
they going to do it animated, or are they going to do it with people?
Oh, they're still going to do it with that great acting cast they did before, mind you, -1 because he's officially retired from all, but that's okay because he left the most fantastic legacy nobody can beat. Mark Hamill.
He's not going to do it?
Yeah, he's retired from doing the Joker, which is, a lot of people say that's a big loss, but I'm like, good on you. You did all this for 20 years and proved yourself unbeatable in the part. Right. Good on you for your retirement. Right. So, like I say, he did a fantastic. I mean, there's this poster.
Yeah, when you told me that, I went back and saw a few and said, yeah, that's Mark. I didn't even know that. And that is a mark of a great actor.
Right.
Is when you don't, when you see them perform,
mm-hmm.
you don't realize who it is. In Woody Allen movies, his muse, Mia Farrow.
Uh-huh.
I worked in New York, and I was, a film and theater electrician.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked on a few movies, and I worked on his movies. And when you work on a movie, everything is taken out of context.
Right.
So it's a scene, and it's like by their schedule and where they are and what's going on, right? But when I helped do Broadway Dandy Rose, I actually knew it was Mia Farrow. Years later, I saw the movie like in a hotel on TV, and I forgot that was Mia Farrow. And I'm watching her play, and I'm watching the whole movie, so it's in continuity.
Right.
And I said, "Who is this amazing actress? This is amazing!" Right? And then end of the movie, and I watched the titles. I'm like, that's right, it was Mia Farrow.
Right.
And the fact that I worked on the movie, I saw her doing the role, and years later when I saw her on TV, she was so amazing. She wasn't Mia Farrow.
Right.
There are a lot of actors who are,
Yeah, I mean, that was the favorite thing of when Mark showed up for the audition for doing the Joker. That was a great thing because he came in with the best voice director in the business, Andrea Romano. You can find her on all the really good stuff from 90s and 2000s. She's still doing voice directing. Right. She does a great casting job. But something great which happened with that was they were getting ready to cast the 1992 beginning of the animated Batman series. And he comes in for the first day of casting for the Joker, and everyone's just looking at him like, this is Luke Skywalker.
Right.
What's he possibly going to do? They're like, oh, confused and frozen. So he gets in the booth, And then he does this. Now, ain't that a coinkydink? We're talking about the old man, and the spawn of his loins just happens to call. Makes you want to laugh, doesn't it, Artie?
So, you know,
And it just becomes this horrible, maniacal, unbreakable laugh that comes from his throat, and everyone is just looking at him when he did those lunches like, sign him up.
Right.
That's the Joker. And so he stuck with it and became the most profound voice for it for the last 20 years of voicing for it.
Robert, you know what you really need to do? You need to get an agent.
Mm-hmm.
And you have it in you to be a voiceover actor.
That's something Dan and I are getting the equipment for, something basic we're going to do to get started.
All you need is a microphone and your laptop.
We've got the microphone. We need to set up the
place. You could do it over this microphone. This is almost good enough.
Guess what we're going to do, Al? Something important we are starting.
Right.
Something we're going to be starting as soon as we get Dan's channel on YouTube established. We're going to be doing some audio-video readings of some of our best graphic novels and just of all kinds of things where we will be doing the voices.
Man, whatever they pay you on your job is peanuts to what you could earn in about 8 hours a week. Then you'd have more money than you'd ever had. You could do everything you wanted to do. It would give you freedom, and you would enjoy it. You got it in you to do it.
I've got the plan and I've got the skill out. I just need to set up the time. That is all that it is. I'm working at it. I am working at it every single day.
I'll have to get the cattle prod out. Anyway, kids, I think Robert is packing up. I'm waiting for it to slow down and rain. I hope how long are we? 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Yep, that's how long we've been on this.
I did the break in.
Yep. This is all the time I have for now. Hopefully we will bring this up again.
We'll do it again. Right. I know where he is. I know where he is on Saturdays.
Yep. I'm usually staying here working on my things.
So I'm gonna jump off here, kids, and I'm gonna try and do one this evening from the school. We'll see how that works out. Okay. Love you guys. Stay well. See ya, Rhonda, Lana, whoever the third person is.
I will see. Hopefully we'll be able to do this again when we'll be able to get into discussion. And hopefully if we could set this up in advance, I will be able to bring my assistants and best partners on this endeavor.
Oh, when are they going to be around?
We're still trying to get the schedule. The last